Hello everybody and welcome to the city of Tokyo. This is Tsukuda, where they're going to be having a major festival, one that they hold every 2 years, coming in the next couple of weeks. You see them preparing for it over there. They've got some of the stands going up here, even a makeshift torii gate down there. As Japanese summer is here, you can feel it in just the humidity. It's pretty hot. And in this episode, I want to talk to you about Japan's struggles with tourism. And this is going to answer a lot of questions for those of you who are wondering if this is the right time to come and visit Japan, and maybe why you should probably wait a little bit longer. 2024 is going to be a lot better year. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And these challenges that I list off here are going to explain that. The first of them, let me run down what my agenda is for today. We're going to talk about the staff shortages that are everywhere right now, in particular at hotels, taxis, and at restaurants, which impacts you greatly when you do come to Japan. The next is construction and the speed in which Japan is building a lot of the new infrastructure, in particular since the Olympics in 2021 were held. And then there's the attractions right now. They're not as many as they were in 2019, believe it or not. But that's being remedied, and we'll get into what I mean by this. A lack of attractions, maybe, not enough, or not enough promoted attractions. And then finally, the overcrowding of Japan right now. Everybody, it seems like, is coming here to Japan. If you just go to social media, it's crazy to see the amount of Japan-based content. Maybe it's just because I live in Japan, but I've actually said I'm not interested to Japanese topics because I personally want to see what's happening outside of the world as well. But I keep getting this, especially from other YouTubers that are visiting Japan from other countries that are just in love with this country, and I can understand why. I love this neighborhood because they have all this stuff out here, and you can see they're getting ready for the festival down there. At the end of the street, there's a omikoshi, which I'll show it to you. It's a portable shrine that they'll be carrying at the Sumiyoshi. It's called the Sumiyoshi Festival. They hold it once every 2 years. And you can see them getting ready for it. It is a crazy festival, and in a good way. This island, it's in the middle of Tokyo Bay. It's an actual original island because a lot of it is reclaimed land. But Tsukuda is special. This is where the Osaka fishermen used to be stationed during the Edo period, and would send their fish from here onto, I guess you could say, the mainland, because there's no bridge connecting it. And it's a very pleasant place to live. In fact, I've got a lot of friends here. Let's go over the staff shortages. I even wrote this down on an envelope so I wouldn't get too distracted and keep this in there. So this is called Tsukuda, Tsukuda, and it's one of my favorite places to walk around. Here's a poster for the event that's coming up. You can see they will be carrying around an omikoshi, which is very heavy and very symbolic. And this neighborhood is famous for being different because there is that kind of Osaka feeling to it because of the history of this place. And they hold this every 2 years, so it builds. The excitement builds, and you will see. I noticed there's a lot of tourists from France that come down here because France has this promoted in their guidebooks, this neighborhood. But the Westerners, you won't find a lot of Americans in this neighborhood. But the French, they come here quite a bit, which is interesting. That was a group of French travelers. WRX Turbo's in the house. Did I say that? I'm still working on music to announce you when you come here. It's nice to see you again. Staff shortages are everywhere, and this is impacting Japan, in particular in the cities. Let me go to to kind of understand this. We have to go back to November of 2022. The Japanese government before this, you guys all remember this, in 2022, we couldn't quite understand why Japan was so hesitant to reopen the country. They were just slower than the rest of the world. And in my updates to everybody, I was telling you that this is going to lead to some massive problems, because when they do reopen, they need to make sure that everybody knows that this reopening is going to take place. And one of the things that I really didn't agree on was that Prime Minister Kishida did not give a lot of heads up that he was just going to say, I'm opening up the country. Just all of a sudden, the country was just open and all these restrictions melted away. It left some people that were coming to Japan in limbo, whether or not you needed to use an app to enter and all this other stuff. So Japan did not get that couple of months of change. They needed to get ready for this. There's a lot of people that said, look, I want to invest and make some tourist attractions for people, but I don't know if this is the right time, because what if it closes again? Because the government is so wishy-washy on this. Entrepreneurs did not invest in tourist infrastructure for the foreign tourism. So you're starting to see the strain on the system today as a result of that. They just didn't have the time to prepare for it, because they didn't want to invest in something that they didn't know was going to be there this summer. It is very much a political thing. So you have here hotels. If you go to any hotel now in the countryside, you're going to find that there are workers from South Asia, in particular from India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. And I was talking to one of them who was working at a convenience store in the countryside. Just caught him after work. And I asked him, how did you get to Japan? And he told me, he says, in India, there are places where you can study Japanese and you learn about the culture and the language. And after you graduate from that, you can get into a program to get a visa to come here to work for a specified number of years or months, and you get paid very well. And it's a very good society in which to live in. Super happy with his job, and he's able to send money back home working at a convenience store here. So I was pretty happy to hear that it's like a win-win for everybody. And the workers coming from South Asia, you can tell because they kind of look like me, because my mother's from India. They're also very good at their jobs. So they have this real attention to detail that I think meshes well with the rest of East Asia. And they seem to have a lot of people in India as well right now. So we're starting to see workers coming in from South Asia, where there is a population boom, to places here where there's a population bust. And that's really interesting. My biggest concern was, are this staff going to be able to keep the high level of service that Japanese expect and that tourists appreciate? And the answer is yes, actually. I have had really good service from these staffers coming from abroad who know the language better than me. I never studied in a school. I'm conversational. Yeah, I'm on TV sometimes. Do I know what everyone's talking about in the studio? No. But I'm having fun, and I'm able to talk about it with confidence. What the job that they're doing is just incredible. And you can see that the way that they'll give omotenashi and how they learn this is incredible. So when you do see somebody from abroad doing a job that Japanese would do, I tend to give them a little bit of leeway, but maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should make sure that they are doing the same kind of job that Japanese. And let me put it to you like this. Not all Japanese give really good service. There's the baito, or part-time jobs, that I remember going into Tsutaya to rent stuff and go in there with young kids that didn't give a damn about their job, and it was really not a great experience. Not like what I'm getting at the Japanese ryokan with foreign workers. So I'm very interested to see how this evolves over the next year. How many more workers from abroad are going to come in and work in the hotel and taxi industry as well? Yes, 2 days ago, I was waiting for a taxi to go to the TV studio. Typically, I have to wait about 2 or 3 minutes. This time I had to wait about 15 minutes or more. I would have had to, but I said I can't wait anymore, so I had to book to the train station, and I got to the studio about 10 minutes late, but I was 40 minutes before my appearance, so it's okay. But I was just surprised I can't get a taxi. Reason? There are too many tourists in Tokyo. Not everybody's riding the subway. There are not enough taxis. There aren't enough taxi drivers in particular. The foreign tourists are taking those taxis as well as right now. Japanese students are off. Japanese students are on the go. So summer vacation has started. Families are also on the go. It's a perfect storm right now out there. So you can expect it to be more stressful for not just the locals, but also for the tourists. And locals, I mean Japanese citizens. This is their country after all, but without tourists visiting here, there wouldn't be a lot of growth sectors in Japan at the moment. So this is going to be a struggle, in particular because of the staffing shortages. I've noticed restaurants staffing also from abroad, or they just can't find enough staff to staff those restaurants. Restaurants is a hard business. I used to wait tables in college. I was pretty good at it. We would work for tips. You don't get tipped here. So it's harder to, which is probably a good thing, but it's also harder to get people to go into the food industry for service. Even the high school and kids and college kids don't want to do it as much as they did in the past. I don't know what those kids want to do, to be honest with you. I'm going to turn it around and show you the Sumida River as we go through this list of here. But restaurants, I've noticed, have also had a huge problem, not just with staff shortages. Unlike the hotels, well, the hotels have this as well. Inflation has really hit them hard. You can tell with the prices of the food is starting to go up faster. Well, the inflation is going up faster than the prices that they introduced. So they're all introducing higher prices that would normally be, because they know that inflation and costs are going to be higher. Here's the Sumida River, everybody. This is the main waterway through the city of Tokyo, and this will lead you over to Tokyo Bay, just about, I don't know, about a kilometer past those sky-high buildings right there. Just go straight and you're in this really big open waterway. But yeah, the restaurants have a lot of problems, not just staff shortages, but the ingredients for their food is a lot more expensive. And the weaker yen makes things that they would import from abroad even more expensive. And that's all getting passed to us who live here in Japan. But for foreign tourists, getting 140 yen to the dollar, right? I think this is the exchange rate. A pretty good discount on everything, so you don't feel the price hikes so much when you visit Japan. Not right now anyways, but we all are. I started noticing it last year with the price of beer going up, which I quit right now. I don't drink. I haven't had a beer in a very long time. Alcohol, food, eggs, milk, everything has gone up. And you can feel it now when you go to the supermarket. Everyday cooking, everyday life. Rent is up. And the next thing I want to talk about is construction is way up. Because now we don't have, I'm going to walk along the river here. We don't have enough people in the construction industry in Japan to make all of the new buildings that are required. We saw this as an issue during the Olympics, where the reconstruction of Tohoku was almost suspended so that we would have enough workers to build the infrastructure for the Olympics in 2020, 2021, 2019. Now that we've finished, we're not actually finished. A lot of construction is happening right in front of Tokyo Station right now. In Roppongi, I saw a lot of construction. Even in Shibuya, the construction is ongoing as the Tokyo department store in front of Shibuya Station is under construction. This has thrown a lot of tourist attractions into limbo, because it's the places that you used to go. It's like you're looking at them with new eyes all of a sudden, because everything has changed. The way you used to go into those tourist attractions are different. So Japan is struggling quite a bit with the construction, but I'm seeing more migrant workers, in particular from the Philippines. Met some friendly people that were on the job site taking a break. They're from the Philippines. Met some people from Sri Lanka. Their government and their economy is not good, so they're very happy to have the job here, working in construction. More than capable. A lot of them had experience working in Qatar for the World Cup over there. So now they're over here, which is interesting. Some of them are on contracts, and they had to learn Japanese to come here, though. That's the thing. It's not just English, learning English. You have to learn Japanese. And the schools in India and surrounding countries are giving them an opportunity to come here and take advantage of those necessary jobs that are here that pay well, but no one else can fill them, because you have to, if you can't communicate with the other workers and the foreman, you're not going to be able to do a construction job here. You learn Japanese pretty quickly though on the job. Let me show you some of the numbers here to give you a better idea of how this boom has hit Japan. This is from JNTO. This is the get this data here. So from 2018 to 2019 until the beginning of 2020, you could see tourism was like amazing. You had 3 million visitors a month coming in at some times. You see at the top there. And then during the pandemic, everything just shut down. And because that period is extended through 2020, 2021, and 2022, and needlessly, in my opinion, a lot of businesses closed, hotels closed. They couldn't fill them. They couldn't get enough money to keep them open, to pay the rent. We're seeing this very hard hit in Akihabara, for example. And then in 2022, you can see in November, it just goes boom, right? You see that? Within a few months, they were at 1.5 million, and now they're at 2 million, and it's only going to rise. I think it'll be at 4 million next year with China returning into the fold with tourism. The numbers are incredible when you look at it from JNTO, and they just released this data recently. I'll go over it with you because it is in Japanese here. This is the amount of money, and and they say follow the money and you'll know. That big blue box in the center of your screen was China. The one that's not too bright and not too dark. It says Chugoku, which is China. That number in 2019, and then you look at 2023, you can see the dates. China plays a very limited role in the amount of money coming into Japan through tourism. The biggest changes are in Korea. You see a modest gain there, but they had a pretty good proportion before. And the United States and Taiwan. United States is the biggest growth area for visitors coming to Japan. You could see it. It was like a little fraction there, and then now it's you see the black one on the bottom is Taiwan. The next one up says Beikoku, which is United States. And Beikoku, America, has seen massive gains, not like tremendously massive, but pretty big, which has made up the difference with Chinese not coming to Japan, and Americans are spending more money because of the weaker yen. So actually, despite the tourism of 2019 being the peak at, 1.27 cho-en? Is that cho-en? It's like, billions of dollars. They're at almost the same amount of money that they're making for tourism right now over the last 2 months as they did in 2019. So the tourism sector is back in Japan. You might not have the same numbers, but the amount of spending in Japan is nearly the same as it was in 2019. And that's pretty important, right? I think that's pretty important. We're starting to see articles. I like this comment here. The influx is helping stir demand-driven inflation in the world's third largest economies of hotels, restaurants, and retailers, finding they can change more without denting sales. They could charge more without denting sales. Because the yen is so weak, to tourists, they're charging more. Japanese are going to buy it anyways. But everybody knows, or at least you should, about the famous restaurant for sushi in Ginza called Cube. And in April, they had to halt their lunch sales because it offered you, it was just too expensive to get those ingredients. Cube is a pretty significant restaurant to take a hit like this. But most of their customers came from Europe, the United States, and elsewhere in Asia. So they're willing to pay that extra amount for the cost of the things that were really, Cube was pretty expensive before, but it's even more expensive. But the thing is, Cube is also a Japanese restaurant. And if you're catering to just foreign tourists all the time, you're going to have a more tourist-centered menu just because you give the people what they want, which is that. But like, one of the things about Cube that was good is that it is authentic and the chefs are authentic. And now that it's all booked out by foreigners, and they're not going to say no to foreigners, they're not going to say no to anybody. Japanese diners, and you see at the end there, can't get into the restaurants that they like, so it's making the plans change quite a bit. This is leading to stress inside of Japan, and why I think that the tourism sector is struggling in that way. Because the foreign tourists are not happy. There's not enough staff, not enough English speakers. which leads me to the last point here. The overcrowding is awful. American tourists, not everybody, 95%, are doing the same thing. You guys are going to the same places, doing the same thing. You're coming in through Tokyo, you're going to Kyoto, you're spending some time there, you're going to Osaka, to Dotonbori, then you're going to Himeji Castle, then you're going down to Hiroshima to see the Peace Museum. Some of you are actually going to Miyajima, then you're coming back up, and maybe you do Nara to see the bowing deers, go see the big golden Buddha there. You're doing the same stuff. All those places are so darn crowded. No one is really leaving the golden route. And this is creating a massive headache. You go to the Sky Tree today, you go to Tsukiji Market, which is just over there, maybe a couple of kilometers. You go to Asakusa, it is a ridiculous madhouse of people. You can almost hear exclusively English right now, mostly from American tourists. Not a lot of people are going to Tohoku. Not a lot of people were in Okayama when I was there. Going to the garden in the morning, I was hoping that I would at least meet some foreign tourists doing that walk from the station going up to Korakuen. Nobody, only expats that were working in the area. So I mean, like, I hope over the next year that some of us that live here, in particular, you know who they are, YouTubers that live here in Japan, can do a better job of trying to get people, convincing them off of the beaten path, not just taking sponsored jobs to do it, because I get sponsored jobs. I won't say sponsored, but I will get budgets to go and highlight places that I was going to go to anyways. So I would prioritize those. But lately, I'm just going because I think it's a really important thing to do, to go to promote some of these locations. And over the course of the next couple of months, you're going to see on Only in Japan main channel some places that are really off of the beaten path. I got nothing and no incentive to go to these places, but I think that this will open your eyes to beyond the golden route, because there are people, when they say overcrowding, they're like, when you go to the countryside, like, what are you talking about? There's nobody here. We were all expecting a tourist boom, and there's nobody here, because Chinese tourists, love them or hate them, because we all know that there are always issues. There's issues with every country's tourists, but they would go to places like Kanazawa more. They would go to places on the Sea of Japan more. Cruise ships from China would help with places in Yamagata, with places in Akita, because they had ports for those cruise ships and would generate a lot of income for the Tohoku region tourism. They're not there. So the Americans are coming in through Tokyo, and they're not going to these other places yet. I'm turning the camera on for a reason as I complete my rant. How did it turn into a rant? I'm having fun though. I had to turn it around so I could share this with you. I think you all know what that is. Me and this boat, we got a history. This is a space boat. It's just not. It's actually the Suijo bus, but it's a thing of beauty to me. I always thought that it would be able to dive down. Maybe one day it will. Whether it comes up again, that's a whole different question. You have to yell it, space boat! Space boat's packed. I could see it's completely packed with tourists. And a lot of you remember, I should have zoomed in a little more. A lot of you remember, they used to run that with nobody there. So for me, it's really a good thing to see space boat go by there. Yeah, construction has been an issue now. It's slow. There's a lot of projects that started, but the cost for the raw materials, because of inflation, because of the weak yen, because of Japan's, they say almost loose policy, I guess, the interest rates is like 0.01%. They don't want anyone saving their money. They want more spending. They want inflation in Japan because there's been deflation. They want to be able to control that inflation, and that's really not easy to do. The weak yen has caused Japan's an island. They have to import everything, has caused a lot of issues with the construction now, and a lot of the tourist attractions that were supposed to be built in time will not be in time. So 2024 is going to be the better year. There'll be a lot more stuff here to enjoy, and because Japan is solving its staffing shortage problem with importing workers from abroad, this system is still kind of new, and I think it has a lot of potential because I'm seeing some amazing people coming over to Japan doing as good a job as Japanese would do, speaking in Japanese, and have the added bonus of being able to speak in some English. Not always that you can understand, but their heart is in the right place, and they can speak it pretty darn good enough. But the overcrowding is definitely something that you feel right now, and a lot of that is due to tourists not going off of the beaten path, and also there's just also a lack of support in the Japanese tourist sector. If you go to even some of the information booths, there's not enough people working there either. More Ghibli attractions to visit too. So I think you guys got a list here. Reasons English speakers don't go to non-popular tourist places. I don't think you've got much of an excuse because they don't speak English. That is the worst excuse. I like to think that our viewers have a sense of adventure. A language, I've traveled to 72 countries in my life. I don't speak too many other languages. I studied Spanish in school. I learned Japanese over time through immersion. I don't speak the languages of the countries that I visited. Some of them can't speak English. Most of them didn't. But you get around. You learn how to communicate. You buy a phrase book. And that's part of the adventure of trying. You end up getting food. If you have allergies, you ask the local tourist office to write down the foods in Japanese that you could present to them and say, I have an allergy, so you don't have that issue. You learn to think and be creative with communication. And if you're afraid to go to the countryside because they might not speak English, you're not really much of a traveler, are you? Traveling, if you're going here for a vacation, you can pick a package tour and get on a bus. But if you want to be an independent tourist, you're going to have a sense of adventure. You're going to have to learn to improvise, to get a phrase book, to learn something on the airplane about the culture you're about to get into. Because I guarantee you it's going to be 100 times more rewarding than if you just come here to try to eat at some restaurants in Tokyo. But if you are an adventurous person, you're going to want to learn a little bit of the language, and you're going to want to explore outside of where there are a bunch of other people who are speaking English. Because I can tell you this right now, if you go to Asakusa, if you go to Tsukiji Market, I do not feel Japan because I don't hear it. I don't feel it because I don't see it. I see foreign tourists and I hear English, and it does not feel like Japan to me. And I don't think you can get an experience of traveling in Japan if you are going to these particular places right now. So I have to encourage you to get the heck out of Tokyo. Irvin is here. People need to venture out on non-Golden Route places. You'll be surprised where you'll find English speakers. This is very true. It's not that tourists are not going to those faraway places. You'll find them. In fact, they stick out like a sore thumb because they're so different, which is a good thing. Now you'll feel like my first 25 years in Japan, wherever I went, I felt very different. But not enough people are going out there, and everyone wants to do the same things. And I'm hoping if it's your second trip, you're not coming to Japan just to do the same things because you enjoyed it so much. I'm hoping that perhaps maybe you'll rent a car, get a AAA international license for $10, and you'll rent a car for $50 a day, and you'll go out to the mountains and start hiking or doing something. Go on the Nakasendo and hike there, and go to some of these amazing villages that haven't changed for 150 years to see another side of Japan. Go to ryokan out in the countryside and learn how to soak in an onsen and not be afraid of getting into a bath with a bunch of other people who don't care what you look like. You do. It took me a year It took me a year to get over my fear, and the biggest regret that I have about living here was the first year where I did not go to an onsen because I was worried and thought that public bathing like this was just weird. And after that first year and the first time I tried it, it changed me completely. And it said, why did I have those fears to begin with? And I can understand. It seems a little weird. The AAA license is now $20. Okay. It's $10 more. To get a Japanese license will cost you like $3,000 unless you have from the school here. So $20 is a small price to pay to drive the roads in Japan. Use that savings for the tolls and stuff. But the local roads are free, and the gasoline you can see is probably cheaper than in the United States right now. There are advantages to it. the trains take you to some places, but not a lot. And there's an amazing amount of freedom and culture that you discover on the roads, because everybody knows. I love these questions. I'm going to sit here for a second. Everybody knows that Japan is a car culture. I think even before train culture, Japan is a car culture. In the places that you will want to go to discover Japanese culture, you probably are best served with having a rental car. And they start as little as like $50 a day, maybe even less, if you want a compact or a subcompact. If you've got a family of 4, you don't have to carry your luggage on and off of trains. You put it in the trunk. It's awesome. Highway tolls are expensive. Yeah, you don't have to take the highway the whole time, but you also get to places really fast. And if you're spending $3,000 or $2,000 or maybe even a lot more for a family to come over here, I don't think 50 bucks on a highway toll is going to be a massive issue when you save that money also on the trains. The train passes, the trains can be also very stressful. I took the Shinkansen from Okayama back. There were a lot of foreign tourists, even on the Nozomi, and they carry these massive suitcases that just added so much stress. So if you're sitting in by the window, you got this tourist who has to put this massive suitcase. What the heck are they carrying in there? Like in front of their legs. So they can't stretch their legs. So it obviously cannot be very comfortable for them to have their suitcase right in front of them. They can't put it in the overhead luggage, and they failed to get an oversized baggage reservation. So that everybody on the train has to suffer because of these people who have these massive suitcases of stuff that they don't need to bring. They can just, you know, pack half. What do you need in there? Just watch the boats going by. It's kind of fun. I'm very passionate about this, wouldn't you say? Because I want you to have a good time when you come to Japan. I want you to enjoy yourself, and I don't think that you're going to. I think you'll enjoy yourself, but not as much as if you come in 2024 when things settle down, and I think tourists start to get back to the countryside. It's not exactly 100% fault that, in particular, Americans are not going to the countryside. They're probably not ready for the tourism boom. They're probably not ready for it, but they should have been. And this is why I think Japan is where it is. MB, thank you. It's expensive because I'm from a place with no tolls. Yeah, if you drive in the US, you don't have to pay tolls. It's not as high as they are in Japan. That's a good thing. But look, I'm going to be honest with you in respect with the tolls. Because the tolls are high, less people just get on the highways, and it is a lot more fun to drive them as a result. So because the highways are not always, but because the highways are a premium, they're probably less crowded. If the highways were cheaper, they probably price them like that because it's at a point where it's uncomfortable for people, but comfortable enough where people could afford them. You know what I mean? So I want to keep it real here. If you had a cheap tolls, do you think riding the highways would be enjoyable if it was a traffic jam? I'd rather pay more to get where I need to go faster. It all works out. Probably there's a reason behind everything that you think that there's no rationale. There's probably a Japanese explanation to it, and that would be mine. J Jersey Girls here. I want to visit the Tohoku region. I also want to visit Tottori to go sledding down the sand dunes. Yes! So I'm learning Japanese. That is one of the biggest unexplored, off the beaten path places. Tottori and Shimane make up the Sanin region. You have Mount Daisen, which is more comfortable than climbing Mount Fuji. You get an amazing view from the top. It is like, it's a volcano, dormant one, but the views and the slopes go straight to the sea. It is such an impressively beautiful view from up there. There's so many attractions. The food is some of the best that I've had in Japan. The water, they say, is the best to drink, they say. Shimane's got Matsue, which is an amazing castle town. You have Izumo Taisha, which is one of the most important Shinto shrines, the shrine of love. When my wife and I got married, we got married with a shrine that was associated with Izumo Taisha. So that's an amazing place also to see. The castle town of Matsue has lots of amazing businesses around there. It feels very local. Great place to spend a couple of nights. Yonago is a fun town. There's Sakai Minato, which is this area that has a yokai for Gegege no Kitaro. They did a good job with it. You feel, how you doing? They did a good job with it. You can feel that, It's hard not to say hi with you walking by. How's everything going?
Not too bad.
Yeah?
Get some sun.
Oh, good idea. That's what I'm doing at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, so these are all really great attractions in the Sanin region, so you can fly in. Also, flights there are pretty reasonable. You can take... I'm glad that somebody brought this up. No one's going here. You can take from Tokyo Station the 10 p.m. night train. It's still available. You can get reservations up to a week in advance on the Sunrise Izumo. They have the Nobi Nobi Zaseki, which are these seats which you sleep in these cubbies. It's Japan. It's perfectly safe. But it's so peaceful to be rocked to sleep on a train. You wake up passing through Okayama, going to the Sea of Japan side. The train's available on the JR Rail Pass. You can also get compartments if you upgrade a little bit. That'll take you there and you can bring the train back. So, I mean, there's not a lot of excuses not to get to this Sanin area and take advantage of not that many tourists. Exit 14B, the New Jersey Turnpike. I was raised paying. Yeah, but the Turnpike is not that expensive. I remember paying, was it like $10 or something? You can ride all the way through New Jersey. It might have changed over the last 20 some years, but yeah, I used to live down near 7A. That was one of the closest entrances to the Jersey Turnpike. I guess that's the one with route what is that, Route 130? Yeah, that goes through Tabernacle down there. Or was that the one? I guess you could also go to Great Adventure. Maybe it was exit 7. I can't remember, but I rode the Turnpike quite a bit. It's not even comparable to Japanese tolls, but it's so convenient though. It is so convenient. Yeah, and there's Hoki Town. Yeah, thanks for bringing that. Hokue Town in Totori. There's a lot of attractions in there. There's the sand dunes. So if you can take a train up from Yonago, or you can go up to Totori. I think that you should spend a couple of days at Daisen. There's a village up there. I've already done about 5 live streams from this mountain village. That's amazing. They put up some great historic cafes, and the shrine is 3,000 years old. There's a cobblestone street. It's not even cobblestone, it's cobble boulder. They made that 3,000 years ago, I believe. They have this in June when they open it, Natsubaraki they call it. They have this torch festival from the shrine going all the way down to the town with 3,000 torches. It looks like people are going out to get Frankenstein or something. I love taking part of that. I've done that festival I think 3 times. Once for NHK, but I might do that again next year. I love that area of Japan because nobody goes there. If you're looking for the Japanese experience, you get off of the Golden Route, because I think despite the fact that Kyoto, and it's not that I hate Kyoto, I just think that it's lost sometimes. It's just too much of a tourist attraction, and I think it's getting harder and harder. The residents don't appreciate the tourists as much as they should, perhaps. But I think if you go to Kanazawa, you get pretty much the same experience, but you gotta go to a place where they appreciate you more. That's important. I think you feel that as a tourist. Kyoto, you'll find great places in Kyoto, don't get me wrong. I just think it's getting harder and harder, because that's overwhelmingly the place that people go to too much, because they feel that that's where they're gonna get the best Japanese cultural experience. I think that thinking is wrong. I think it's flawed. I think you get the better experience in nature, not in the center of Kyoto. Go to Uji. Kyoto's a big prefecture, actually. It goes all the way to the Sea of Japan. There are places within Kyoto Prefecture that are great, but Kyoto proper in the center, where all the temples and shrines are, see it for one day. Day trip Kyoto. Go see Ninenzaka, the stairways there going up to Kiyomizudera, and then get out. I think you can keep going on the Kanazawa, where the hotels and the food and everything is cheaper. There's not as many Westerners speaking English, and you feel more of the heart of Japan out there. That's just my 2 cents. It's actually maybe more than 2 cents. Funky Bear's here, so it's $13.99 Canadian cents. I went to Nagasaki and Okayama last month. It was awesome, and there were very few tourists. There were a little more in Naoshima Art Island and Kurashiki, but still not too many. Kurashiki is this beautiful samurai warehouse district. It used to be the location of the Denmark influenced Tivoli Gardens, which was exactly like a miniature Tivoli. If you've ever been to Copenhagen, that's since gone out of business, but it's still an amazingly beautiful warehouse town, and a good tourist attraction. But you don't have as many tourists as you do in like Askusa, for example, because it is sort of off of the beaten path. I'm glad you brought that up. And Nagasaki also does not get a lot of love because it's so hard to get to if you're coming in from Tokyo or Osaka. You really have to commit to Nagasaki and this region. And with the new Shinkansen there, it does make it a lot more easier to get there. So I think Nagasaki's got a pretty good future ahead of itself with tourism, because it's got one of the best night views, and the food is also amazing, and those that make it over there are rewarded with that. So I have a Patreon supporter from California who's coming in October, and she just wrote me today, you know who you are, about help of finding new places to go to in Japan. And one of my suggestions was to consider going to Shikoku or to Kyushu, where you got a lot of the same attractions as you might have in Nagano. You're going to get culture everywhere, all right? You're going to find cultural places all over Japan. It doesn't stop because you're getting away from Tokyo. It gets stronger the further you get from Tokyo. I just think that the challenges in communication offer amazing chances for you to feel the omotenashi. When people don't speak English, you start to feel the effort that they put into trying to communicate to make you happy, and that's when you start to learn the heart of Japan. How do I know this? Because I hitchhiked I didn't know a lot of Japanese in 2003, but I hitchhiked from Wakkanai in the very north down to Kagoshima in the very southwest. It took me 40 days, I think. I spent $150, and I learned the heart of Japanese countryside from the people who picked me up. And I don't recommend hitchhiking to anybody. There are risks involved. But one of the reasons why I'm still here is because of that trip in 2003, 3 years before YouTube even started, okay? So my incentive to doing this trip was not to document it. I did make a documentary out of it, but was also to really get to know this country. And I think I did that with that trip. And I can say with much confidence, language is just, it's not as big of a hurdle as you think it would be. And being worried about it, unless you're breaking the law, like bringing in stuff you shouldn't and selling it on the streets or something, you don't got anything to worry about here. I saw a familiar face here. Michael Sassano is in the house. Maybe you're onto something, John. You could start the Off the Beaten Path Japan Tours business. What a wonderful segue into the promotion of today's sponsor, which is me. Yeah, it's just fun. I'm doing a bus trip and Nightbot will put the link in the live chat. You can see it to go there. Ide-san, who is a connection of mine through the Japan National Fireworks Association, is helping me with this bus tour where we're gonna have 30 people, a maximum of 30 people, take a bus from Nagaoka Station in Niigata from the Shinkansen station. We're gonna drive around the countryside of Niigata to the birthplace of carp, Ojiya. And also we have reserved seats, premium reserved seats for the fireworks that are going on, as well as a hotel that's reserved with an onsen, which is gonna be great. We're gonna go to a mom and pop restaurant and try to support local businesses, try to go get some local soba, local cuisine with ingredients harvested in Niigata. That's the kind of trip I want to do. I want you to feel that. And, I'm getting my fingers into it if I can. It's not as easy to do, but we've planned it out pretty good. Everybody gets a hapi, which is a Japanese festival jacket, which I think is going to be fun to wear. We'll be able to identify one another. And it's only 1 night, 2 days, 2 meals. It's 70,000 yen. That might be pricey to some people, not so much to other people. This is the first time we're doing it. I'm not making anything off of this. This is something that I might make something if we can fill the trip, actually. I don't know, but the costs will be covered pretty much. The minimum that we have is 10 people. 10 or 12 people to start this, and we're at like 10, so we need a couple more people to sign up, so then we can have this 100%. So you could sign up, and you'll get information from Ide-san directly, who will tell you that we're not going to accept any money until we have enough people to do that, to make sure this trip goes ahead. But we're almost there yet. I'll make a video to kind of build this up next week, because August 10th, I think, is the deadline. So I want to see if we can shore up some more support as people plan their trip to come here for September. I appreciate Michael, the shout out for the off the beaten path trips. I'm trying to do it. Don't talk the talk, walk the walk. You got to be a leader in this, right? You got to be somebody who's willing to put in some time and try to help businesses out in the countryside. I also thought about opening up like a guest house out in the countryside. There are some prefectures that would have an interest in this, so if I can work together with partners and people, it's not something I want to do alone. It's a lot of work. If I can work together with partners and people, I would love to build some guest houses and make sure, with my love of Japan and being able to see things from a diagonal way, both sides, to make an experience that is really special and experience-based for everybody coming here. That's more authentic and less like geared towards tourists, because I have a feeling I know what people are looking for with their experience in Japan, because it's something that I looked for too, and I'm finding less and less. Although entrepreneurs are getting creative now. Did the Aomori to Hakodate ferry got the unreserved room? Yes, I think it's still you could still get to Hakodate via ferry. I would recommend that. It takes about 3.5 hours, but the view coming into Hakodate is amazing. Hakodate was very quiet in early July. I believe that. Hokkaido is pretty quiet until the Japanese tourism season starts. Hokkaido is not the thing. This is the thing. I don't think Americans are too interested in Hokkaido because they have places in America that are similar to it. It's like you can go to Colorado, you can go to, Vermont, you can go to these places that have mountains. So I'm not sure it's something that's so attractive, but this is the part. I want to take you down the street because I want to show you something. Take you down the street here. But people fail to realize that the natural beauty is part of what Japan's soul is all about. That Zen is out there. It's not in a Kyoto garden. It's out there in the wilderness, in the coastal towns, in the fishing villages that nobody goes to, seeing the beauty that a guidebook has not found yet. And you can find that there. And, the food, amazing. You still got Japanese chains. If you look for McDonald's Japan, they got that up there too. But you have more seafood. I think you're going to get a better gastronomical experience in Hokkaido, because those ingredients are the same ingredients that are being turned down into Tokyo eventually. They're fresher up there. This is one of the last neighborhoods where you'll see these pumps that still work. And I believe this tag is new. I guess you can still do it. Look at that. Back in the Edo period and the Meiji period, you see the water running. I don't want to waste the water. This is where people would come with buckets they didn't have plumbing, so they would come and get their water for cooking, for bathrooms, everything. So this was the meeting place of this neighborhood. There are a lot of these pumps here, but all the neighbors would come and then talk, waiting for the water. And since piping came in here, we've lost a little bit of that culture. But I noticed supermarkets coming back and bringing in free water points that are similar to something like this, filtered water. And that's kind of cool. The supermarkets that we go to, we got 4-liter bottles that I can go and get filtered water, so you don't need a Brita or something like that here. William, thank you for asking that question. Common Writer Rogue from Singapore writes in here, a couple of years back, me and my buddies decided to cycle around Lake Biwako. Starting from Otsu, that's the big city in Shiga Prefecture. We got lost along the way and ended up in Tsuruga. Oh, I love that city too, or something. Luckily, we managed to find our way back to Otsu. Tsuruga is just like a beautiful city. If you're coming down from the highway, which you might have done it, you see the city on the seaside. It's like this little jewel of a fishing village. There's some interesting stuff, but it's definitely not a tourist attraction in that sense. But you can find the beauty as a tourist in it because it's not a tourist attraction. And I think that that's what's going to happen more in 2024. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great story. I ended up in the only reason I know Tsukuda is because of when I was hitchhiking, I was let off at the Tsukuda interchange, and I had to camp there at night, and nobody picked me up. Next morning, I had to wait for 3 hours, and a truck driver took me to near Osaka. He took me all the way to Osaka, and camping in Tsukuda interchange, I had to hike down to the city to go to a convenience store to get some food to eat for that night. So I know Tsukuda a little bit, but I remember from up there from the interchange looking down onto the city, and it just looked like this jewel glistening with the sea below. Just a beautiful looking little town there. That's all I got for you. My list is done, but this stream actually continues in the comments below, and I love the fact that our community writes a lot of things in there to add to some of the things that I might have missed, or sometimes even gotten wrong. That happens. But you know, I've been in Japan for 25 years. I've lived in 17 different cities. I've moved maybe 20 plus times, and I've been to every prefecture. I think I'm working on my 4th time around. So I know a little bit about a lot of the attractions here. I know a lot about a little of the attractions in my neighborhood, this area. Chuoku. You're almost finished. This is going to be one amazing festival. If you are here, it's going to be taking place. Hey, Irvin, are you going to be here? Let me know. I think it starts on the 4th, and it goes on until the 7th. And I think this Sunday is going to be crazy on the 6th, and it's going to be so much fun. They know how to have a good time here. It's got that, again, like that Osaka vibe, because this is where Sumiyoshi Jinja is the name of it. And the shrine right there on the other side of this building, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll try to live stream it. I think it's going to be, if I'm here, hold on a second. I might not be here on those days though. I wish Kanai could live stream. Oh yeah, right. Jason, last thing before I go, I want a shout out to Ronald. Your postcard is going in the mail right now. This month, you get to feel the heat. This is my friend Toyo-san. I did a video about him on my old channel, which I can't recommend. A couple of years, maybe about 5 years ago. I've seen him since then. He still remembers me, and he gave me this photo, and I made it this month's postcard. And on the back is a, because he's so cute and cuddly, this month, he is in person. This month, we have Winnie the Pooh stamps on the back. So you might get one of the new Japan Post Winnie the Pooh stamps. Don't ask me why they have a Winnie the Pooh stamps, but it seems to complement Toyo-san pretty well. And I'll send this to you from Tokyo if you sign up for the Patreon postcard club. So Ronald in Maryland, thank you. Also, the memberships on this channel for only 99 cents. You get to open up a bunch of emoji, and I'm going to start adding polls and things like this to our membership community. Make it a little bit more vibrant, because I've been focusing on the main channel with edited videos over the last several months now, and I swing back and forth between that. Now I'm editing a bazillion episodes that I've taken over the last couple of months. I have hired a cameraman. You're gonna meet him soon. I've hired some people that potentially could help me with editing as well. So my goal is to get more content out there, maybe once a week by the end of the summer, and focus on sometimes a little bit shorter content. But I think everybody appreciated the longer stuff, because I do too. It takes time for a story to evolve. Oh yeah, I like the back of the postcard too. I gotta hide Ronald's stuff, but you can see the food and the little blurb about my experience there. You see the food that we got served there on the back of it. Is nice to have. And you can start collecting it. I usually, for new signups, I usually will send 2 postcards to say thank you and to get your collection started. I try. PBG is on vacation, but I'll probably catch up with him in the next week. Or sorry, this week coming up since it's Sunday. All right, everybody, my bicycle is over here. I'll see you tomorrow when we do another live stream. I'm going to be this week going to Fukushima to the Soma Noma Oi, which is a samurai horse festival that's been going on for over 1,000 years. But in Soma, Fukushima, which was heavily hit by the tsunami and earthquake and the aftermath, this is a big deal to them. This is the 700th anniversary being held at the exact same spot. And the 33rd generation or 34th generation of the Soma family, which is what the town is named after, the clan, I guess you could say, is going to be participating in this. It is hardcore. I'll try to do some live streams there on the weekend. I'll be in Harajuku on the 28th. So if you want to meet me, I'll be in Harajuku around lunchtime to do a live stream. So I'll see you on the 28th, and maybe I'll announce some more stuff really soon. Bye, everybody.